are live streaming. Have you ever heard that version before?
Pretty strong.
It was a good one, huh?
Fade to black.
I have to say my a lot of my music comes from TV shows and the good old trusty Shazam app. I hear it and I Shazam it, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Shazam.
All right. Question. Before we jump into this, what's the feeling out there?
The market has slowed down.
Yeah.
Yep. They are feeling they're feeling that it has shifted for sure. If they didn't feel it earlier, they have felt it. It is now.
Yeah.
And this is one of my agents in. So are we okay?
Yeah.
She's in Zoom. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's something going on with the waiting room is why. Did y'all have problems with the waiting room?
Yeah, there may be another link. I'm not sure if a new link was sent out. So I'm not sure on that one.
I don't either. Okay.
No worries.
We'll move on. We're live streaming, so they can go back and watch it.
Yep.
Rick, what are you hearing?
Just still continued interest rate concerns. And it depends on what sector, to be honest. There's no one size fits all response to the question of what I'm hearing.
Right, for sure.
So sorry, I didn't give a better answer, but I'd say like syndicators are now concerned with short-term lending that's now going to reset. They have to refi and they're changing terms dramatically, requiring more money down, and the interest rate clearly has spiked in that arena.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at what's happening with the numbers. All right. So obviously this is Fulton County. Let me just kind of pull where we're at year to date. So obviously don't look at the last drop off because that's not accurate. What you're looking at here on June 12th is 702 actives, 147 under contract, 291 pending, and 265 closed. If I just take some of these other lines off here and we just look at those four numbers, it sure looks like inventory's on a slow climb up a little bit, which is a good thing, I believe. The Brown closing number did a spring market climb. It looks like we peaked at the end of April, and then, you know, at the beginning of the month, it always slows down a little bit, and it's popped back up, but it's still on a upward trajectory. One of the things that I used to make fun of was the active under contract. Like no matter what we did, we sold the same number of houses every week, right? Like, but it sure looks like that number's gotten a little more volatility to it than it did in the past, which has worked in our favor because it's higher. But nonetheless, the expected spring market ramp up has turned out to be a good thing for us, right?
Yep.
If I jump over to, let's look at DeKalb County, and you know, spinning wheels are the death of us, right? All right. So DeKalb County, same kind of conversation. Inventory is on an upward trajectory, but not a big one. You know, we're at 400 active listings. You go back to December, it was 300-ish. So it's about 100 more active properties than it was maybe 6 months ago. The active under contract's at 75. That one looks like it's pretty consistent. The pendings at 185, the closings at 205. 205 in closings on June 12th compared to 118 back on February 20th. That's a good increase, right? Like we're up in the market as we should be in the month of June, right?
Absolutely. We're in peak season.
Yep. And then the other county, just to kind of round this out here. Let's see. Let me take these off. I mean, Cobb County, we're looking at 399 active, 194 under contract, 227 pending, and 238, it looks like, in the closings. But if I take my cursor off, same conversation, except inventory is about the same. You know, we had 381 at January 9th, and we have 399 on June 12th. That's not much difference in Cobb County. Yet the pendings look like they hold around 200 a week. And the closings, though, you can see that brown line started the year a little low with about 100 closings a week. And we did 238 in the last 7 days. So I'll take that, right? Like those are good, healthy growth numbers with positive inventory and closings going up. That's the market we want to see right now. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's closing the gap, and that's what I like seeing. Cobb is a good analogy of what's happening there. So those trend lines are good.
Absolutely.
It just says there's opportunity. The market, even with interest rate hikes, hasn't ground to a halt. Buyers are consistently buying, in fact, improved and increased buying. And inventory, as long as inventory doesn't skyrocket and buyer demand go down, you're not going to see a huge shift in pricing.
Absolutely.
Great.
So just side note, Stephen, real quick, I don't know if maybe we posted the wrong link or something on the Facebook. Maybe you go post the right link so people can join, but we're going to keep going and we'll record it and get the recording out. All right. This I think is important to see. So in Greater Atlanta in 2021, we closed 83,000 homes. And then in 2022, we closed 67,000 homes for a 16% decrease in closings year over year. So at the beginning of the year, we started quoting, hey, the market's down 16%, yada, yada, yada. And then we started getting into the months. And the months actually turned out to be down much more than 16%. And I just want to get some perspective so everybody understands what we're looking at. Orange is this year, blue is last year. So just going back a couple months, January was down 33%, February was down 24%, March was down 22%, April was down 25%, and right now it looks like May was down 32%. So that's real exciting numbers to be reporting on here, not. Yet the question is, how much is our market down? The real answer to that, I'm not sure we could say just yet. Because my prediction is when the interest rates changed, I think our second half of the year is going to hold comparable to what the second half of last year was, if not better. So then the question is 23 is still on the books yet to be written, if that makes sense. Because we're not comparing apples to apples the first 6 months out of the year, but we will be comparing apples to apples the second 6 months of the year. And if memory fails us, this is when it all happened last year, right now, middle of June, and the world got weird. Tell me more.
So my perspective is that, interest rates, as buyers get accustomed to the new interest rates, I think they'll feel more comfortable in purchase power. So, we're not going to see those numbers come back as they were last year. So I do think that there will be, some leveling out year over year. And like you said, third and fourth quarter, that's when we really saw the shift. So I think we will probably, I would say you're probably spot on that we'll see, some leveling out, if not better in the fourth quarter. I'm optimistic with that just because I think people will be adjusted and familiar with where interest rates are. They just have to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, 100%. Rick, any thoughts?
And you're on mute, Rick.
I think you're spot on, Toya, that, people are, the new norm. It's no longer a new norm. It's just the norm. And so now the conversation, which should have always been, is about affordability and, buying power and relative to supply and demand. And so we've hit stability, I think, between supply and demand. There's a consistency that's less alarming, because now I think the conversation is less about, are we seeing a massive ascension or descension? And I think the stability piece, along with, again, becoming more accustomed to the current norm and interest rates, really creates an environment that should create, enhanced stability.
Yeah.
And confidence.
Sure. So here's the big conversation this week is, what are prices doing? So first quarter versus first quarter last year, prices were more or less flat. And they were 1%. So I've got some more data to show you that is going to go a little deeper into pricing, and we're going to jump into that here in a minute. But you can kind of see how we've been on this upward trajectory of pricing thus far. So let me pull this down, and I'm going to show you guys something that tells a very deeper story. And can y'all see this?
Mm-hmm.
Sure can.
Okay. So month over month, January, the prices were down $6,100 from the previous month, right? So I'm sorry, from the previous month. So it was down 1.73. But then starting in January last year, the market climbed all the way to July. Remember, I just made the comment that this is when it all happened last year. And then prices started to go backwards until February this year. Then prices started escalating again. And year to date, bottom right corner, median home prices up 11.45% from January. So median price in January was $350,000, and now it's $390,000. So one conversation, it's not paying to wait to buy real estate. Prices are going up. Now, was that always the case? No. The second half of last year, they were going down. So maybe, Rick, I don't know if you're good at it, or Toya, you might be the best at it of all of us, but who's really good at timing the market when you buy when it's low and sell when it's high?
When it comes to real estate, I've never played that game. I mean, I just
No.
know when my gut says we're at a point I'm happy with my return. That's how I move. I don't know anyone that has a crystal ball.
Yes.
That said, few would argue that we're not at or near a current peak.
Correct. So I want to point something out. So if you look at year over year, I think this tells a very different story. So year over year, in the middle of at the end of 2021, prices were up 22% over the year previous. So that's a pretty big price escalation. We knew that. We experienced that market. Well, it slowly started slowing down. And by June last year, prices were up 17%. Then you saw it slow down some more from the previous year, not from the previous month, but from the previous year, to where March this year, we actually saw prices go backwards a little bit. So on one hand, I could tell you somebody would make an inference that said prices are going backwards. And would they be wrong in that statement?
In comparison to year over year.
Yes. So watch this. This is where the truth is in the details, right? Last year, follow my cursor, 370, 385, 399, 400. Then prices started going backwards, 390, 380, 375, 368. So right now in May 2023, we are 2.5% under the peak of it all last year.
Yep.
So what I suspect is going to happen is come July, we would have flat prices. Come August, I guess our price will be improved. And by the end of this year, I think all those numbers will turn green again on year over year price appreciation. So if you look at the total 2023, we're expecting prices actually to be up. But I could make a statement right now that prices are going backwards if I just use that one data. And I don't think it tells the whole story. Does that make sense?
100%. And again, the reminder is this is global data. In real estate's done in small markets and in, street to street, house to house. So, it's such, you just have to know your local market to be able to use this as a conversational overlay. And an example, I listed a house that helped them buy a house in 1998, if you'll believe that. Kept them in my database, stayed in touch. They didn't talk or connect
what
with
you were
me.
supposed to do.
It is. And lo and behold, they called me a month ago. We gave them some really good feedback. I took our listing specialist on our team out there and I went just because, holy cow, somebody calls me from 1998. I got to see what they're doing. And it was a neat reunion. All that to say, we told them their house as it sat was worth about mid 300s. And it's a cedar contemporary in East Cobb, traditional, typical, what you find built in the early mid to 70s probably. And we compelled them to do a few key things for first impression purpose, but it's not fully renovated. There's a few areas that were up to speed and some that weren't. But the point is we listed it slightly below market purposefully and strategically. We have four offers in the first week. We're already at 430 for the highest and best. And we listed it, I believe, for 375. So there's still a lot of buyer demand out there, especially in certain price points and in certain communities where, schools or infrastructure or social activities still highly desirable and sought after. And so again, it's a micro market story, but this is a fascinating overlay that you're sharing.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest questions, if I was a consumer today, I would be trying to navigate to buy or sell my real estate is what are prices doing? If I'm thinking about selling my house, I want to sell at the peak, right? And if I thought prices were going down, I'd be more motivated to sell quicker. But if I was a buyer, I'm thinking, oh, prices are going to go down. I'll wait to buy at the bottom. But I think the truth of this is it's probably a perfect market for both buyers and sellers right now, because I don't think you can get a more interesting market to where you're going to win on both sides, depending on the pocket, depending on the neighborhood, all that stuff.
And also you still have to take into consideration that we have more negotiating power than we did last year for the last 2 years. So even though, the sellers are certainly, winning in some markets, getting asking or above asking price, I still think that there's room for the buyers to really negotiate where they really didn't have room and power to negotiate at all in the last 2 years.
Right.
It's where you've really got to refine your expertise so that your value proposition includes being able to analyze key details that lend favor to buyer or seller side, depending on who you're representing. Skills-based. We've talked about that over and over. This is absolutely a skills-based market.
100%. So if I jump back to our the real estate stats, this shows 2022, but the question is, what's it going to be in 2023? And then right now we're still in second quarter, so we don't have second quarter appreciation, but it actually may come in negative, right? And then, everybody's going to write a headline about that, right? And then the truth is, I actually believe 2023 is going to show a positive price appreciation when the whole thing's said and done. But we're not going to be able to show that until the year wraps up. So I think it's really important when Toya, we're teaching our agents and they're the local expert, right? How do we interpret this data to guide our buyers and sellers to make appropriate decisions?
I think we just still have to have the conversations. I think for statistics, which is one of my favorite, I think a lot of real estate professionals are intimidated, but this is third-party information and the numbers don't lie. And just as Rick said earlier, I think that there's an opportunity for both buyers and sellers. We just have to be able to pull the right information in order to make sure, who are we representing and what does it look like for them? And it's really a consultation. We've got to get back to consulting.
Yeah. And I think our experienced agents are probably really used to this, but the ones that are growing up in the business, this might seem a little complicated.
Mhm.
How do you simplify it for them?
Continue to
Here's
have
one.
it. Oh, go ahead.
Toya.
No, go ahead.
All I was going to say, here's a simple answer. I've never owned real estate that I don't wish I still owned that I sold. So if we're peaking, so be it. The better question might be, what's the quality of life you're going to experience in this property? Is it investment or owner occupied or primary residence? And then the most important question is, how long do you intend to stay in your home? If it's more than 3 or 4 years, the odds are this thing's going to fluctuate some north and south, but it nets out a win. Again, go back 100 years and show me a time where you shouldn't have bought property that if you owned it today, you wouldn't be pinching yourself with joy.
With joy.
So as a buyer, I think in interest rates, refinancing is a real thing, So if you buy in at a less desirable interest rate, but it's still affordable, just wait it out. They'll likely slip down a little bit more, 1 or 2 points, and you save yourself a few bucks. And mortgage interest is tax deductible. So if you've really got your craft honed and you know the right scripts, and better than the script is a great question, they'll arrive at the right answer.
100%.
And the only thing that I would add to that, Rick, along those lines, I think we have to help, it's the passion and the emotion, of course, that drives the purchase. But I also think that we've got to be consultants in terms of the vehicle of the investment. And I think you said it right. We would all be pinching ourselves if we held on to some real estate today, getting 30 and 40% increase year over year. So I just think we have to be able to give them the dynamics of both. Yes, this is going to be the place you want for your children for school, and it's also going to be able to give you the return on your investment so you can do some other things with wealth.
Boom. Let me hit a couple of other talking points real quick for the week.
Yep.
This is your reminder that
don't steal
it's
photos.
very tempting to steal photos in the real estate industry. This has been going on 8 years. This company's been suing Zillow for stealing listing photos. So it's just a quick reminder, most photos have most professional photos have some kind of copyright on them. And don't go cheap and try to borrow photos. It'll cost you way more in the long run. And then we got to defend you. And we don't like that. So
no, because they'll come after all of us, right? And by the way, even common area photos like parks and general skyscrapes, like streetscape, not just interior home photos are sacred. Any photo that's online that doesn't have explicit direction that you can borrow or use it, go take your own photos.
Pick your own photos. Professional photos, mind you. All right, this is the other one that I think is important to talk about. So a high school senior prank put listings on Zillow. So here's the thing. Zillow intentionally created their portal to where anybody could list a house on it. So a FSBO could list a house on a Zillow. A high school prankster could list a house on Zillow. And, we went through an evolution in the industry where, we owned all the data. Like if you wanted accurate, timely data, the real estate agent had it. And then there was a perception that you could get anything online. But I actually think there's a little bit of a movement going back to, hey, if you want the accurate, right, timely data, the value of a real estate professional matters. And this is just one goofy little story that speaks to that a little bit. And, I don't know about you, but not everything online is accurate. And everything we put in the MLS is 99.9% probability of being accurate, right? So I think it's important to talk about that. And then the last thing actually I have one more thing, but I'll show this real quick. There's a wall of debt looming in the U.S. commercial. Toya, you sent this in. You said, is this too negative? And I said, the truth is we talk about everything on Industry Update, good, bad, negative, because that's the intention of this update, right? So what do you make of this?
Actually, I don't think it's negative at all. I actually think it's an opportunity. And the opportunity is that we should, we're looking at People are looking at things to invest in. So, when you're looking at the 1.5 trillion debt, this is a great opportunity to maybe door knock on some of these commercial properties, go in with group syndications in terms of purchasing and revamping them into something else. So I look at it as all opportunity.
There you go. I do think there is a looming issue in the commercial real estate space. That's something we need to keep our eye on. I think office got shaken up with the pandemic. I think the banking crisis has put a hyper focus on commercial loans, and not even just new loans, existing loans that have risk attached to them. The banks are being very aggressive on asking for more information, checking in on those borrowers. It's something to keep our eye on for sure. Last thing, I've always said we should be very blessed to be where we live and where we do business. And this chart, I'll just zoom in real quick. This is the Mortgage Bankers Association. They're talking about the annual house price change by state. And they're quoting Georgia at 6.7% as the whole state. Of course, we showed you ours is at 11 something in Metro Atlanta. But by golly, if that doesn't say we live in a great part of the country, we choose to do business in a great part of the country, I don't know what does.
Yeah,
that's promising.
Immigration favors us. The fact that we're going to, the prognosticators think we're going to gain between 70 and 80, 60 to 80,000 new people every year for the next 5 to 6 years.
Yep.
It's been that way for a couple of decades. Growth is a beautiful thing. There are states that have, migration and negative growth.
Yeah. I mean, there certainly was a West Coast gold rush. Like a lot of people moved west.
Yep.
At one point in time, but it sure looked like it ran out of gold. The gold's moving back our way.
It's all moving back our way.
That's a whole nother podcast.
There you go. Thank you guys for being here. I know the link got messed up according to Steven. We'll get the recording posted. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
Take care, guys.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.